Hollywood thrives on spectacle drama and unexpected twists. And the latest storm involves none other than Tom Holland, the young actor beloved worldwide for his role as Spider-Man, who shocked fans and critics when he appeared to roast Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively over the Saturday Night Live 50th anniversary lawsuit gag. What should have been a historic night of celebration quickly turned into a firestorm when a joke that many called cruel brought real-world struggles into the spotlight. Tom Holland's reaction struck a nerve. His words were not loud or malicious, yet they carried weight because they captured what so many viewers felt in that moment, that comedy can sometimes cross the line into insensitivity when it targets real pain. Fans immediately split into camps, with some cheering Holland for his honesty and others accusing him of stepping out of line. Meanwhile, Reynolds and Lively, known for their sharp wit and glamorous presence, found themselves uncharacteristically silent, leaving the public to wonder what they really thought of being dragged into the SNL spotlight. This is not just another celebrity feud. It is a clash of values, a generational shift, and a debate over the future of comedy in Hollywood. Tom Holland has always been seen as one of the most humble, charming, and respectful young actors in Hollywood. Yet when he made remarks that seemed to roast Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively over the SNL 50th anniversary lawsuit gag, it sent shockwaves through the industry, because no one expected him to be the one to step into this drama. The Saturday Night Live 50th anniversary was designed to be a celebration of comedy history and legacy, a massive reunion of stars, sketches, and tributes that honored half a century of cultural influence. However, what should have been remembered as a night of laughter became overshadowed by controversy when a gag referencing legal drama, lawsuits, and celebrity feuds landed in a way that many found cruel, unfair, and poorly timed. Among those mentioned in the skit were Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively, who have been navigating ongoing challenges in their public and private lives. And when Tom Holland reacted, his words carried the weight of authenticity and honesty that fans quickly latched onto. Some interpreted his tone as lighthearted, while others saw it as a calculated roast designed to highlight the insensitivity of making such jokes at the expense of real people dealing with real problems. For Tom Holland, the timing could not have been more explosive because he is at a career high point, fresh off blockbuster success. Beloved worldwide and seen as a symbol of sincerity, his commentary therefore did not feel like just another celebrity quip. It felt like a cultural moment where a younger star challenged the tone set by one of Hollywood's longest-running institutions. Many in the audience watching the SNL 50th special described the reaction in the room as tense, awkward, and filled with uncertainty as to whether the gag had gone too far. Insiders later revealed that even some performers backstage were uncomfortable with the sketch and felt it crossed a line. The fact that Tom Holland spoke about it only amplified what was already whispered among industry insiders. While Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively have built their reputations on quick wit, playful banter, and being able to handle media storms, this moment struck differently because the lawsuit gag carried undertones of real struggles they were facing outside of the spotlight. Turning it into comedy seemed to many observers as insensitive. Holland appeared to agree, and when he voiced it in his uniquely disarming style, the internet erupted. Fans flooded social media with mixed reactions, some praising Holland for his courage to call out what they felt was wrong, while others accused him of stirring unnecessary drama. The divide became a trending topic across platforms, with hashtags about Holland Reynolds and Lively dominating conversation for days. The situation illuminated deeper themes about how celebrity culture functions in modern media. The lines between comedy commentary and cruelty are increasingly blurred, and when real lives are involved, the impact can be profound. Legal experts weighed in on the gag, noting that referencing active lawsuits in comedic sketches is risky territory, not only for public relations but also for potential legal implications. Though SNL has historically pushed boundaries, many argued that this particular moment was reckless in execution, with Reynolds and Lively reportedly upset behind the scenes. Holland stepping into the conversation created another layer entirely because he was not directly involved, but his comments placed him in the middle of Hollywood's most heated debate. Insiders suggest Holland has always been wary of how comedy treats personal struggles, perhaps due to his own experiences growing up in the spotlight. His authenticity makes him a voice audiences trust, and in this case, that trust translated into a backlash against SNL, and even a sympathetic lens toward Reynolds and Lively. Despite their own controversies, Industry analysts noted that this was a rare situation, where the younger star seemed to hold more moral authority than the established veterans. The backlash also reignited discussions about how Hollywood couples like Reynolds and Lively manage their image. They are often portrayed as untouchable, glamorous, and endlessly witty. Yet moments like these reveal vulnerabilities, cracks in the carefully crafted image that can quickly become magnified in public discourse. Holland's roast, as some call it, did not have to be cruel to resonate. It was his subtle delivery, his expression of discomfort, and his willingness to voice what others felt that gave his words their power. Fans compared it to previous celebrity moments where stars dared to challenge the status quo, citing instances from past award shows, interviews, and public confrontations. Each time the reaction is intense, because Hollywood does not easily tolerate disruptions to its hierarchy. By choosing this moment, Holland unintentionally or perhaps deliberately placed himself at odds with some of the most influential figures in the business, yet it also elevated his standing among fans who crave authenticity over carefully scripted appearances. As coverage of the incident spread, major outlets from entertainment magazines to mainstream news picked up the story, framing Holland as either a hero or a troublemaker depending on the angle chosen. This duality fueled even more debate online, with commentators dissecting every nuance of his words, his body language, and the potential subtext behind the remarks. Questions arose whether Holland intended to ignite such a storm, or whether he was caught off guard and simply spoke his mind in the moment. Either way, the results were undeniable. His voice became the defining response to the SNL 50th controversy, shaping how audiences interpreted the event in hindsight. The gag itself might have faded into obscurity if not for Holland's reaction. Instead, it became immortalized as part of a larger narrative about sensitivity, in comedy, accountability, in entertainment, and the shifting balance of power between generations of Hollywood stars. The deeper layer of this story is how it exposes tensions between the values of older established stars and those of younger actors, like Holland, who grew up in a media landscape dominated by social media scrutiny, where every word and gesture carries global reach. Reynolds and Lively came of age in a slightly different era, one where witty remarks and playful shade could dominate headlines without the same level of backlash today. However, audiences are quicker to call out perceived cruelty and more eager to defend authenticity. This generational shift is precisely why Holland's comments hit so hard. They spoke to a cultural mood that rejects cruelty disguised as comedy and craves sincerity. Instead, some fans even argued that Holland, by addressing the issue directly, may have saved Reynolds and Lively from a harsher backlash by redirecting focus onto himself as the voice of critique rather than leaving them to face the storm alone, whether intentional or not. His involvement reshaped the narrative and gave the couple space to recalibrate their response without escalating the feud further. As the fallout from Tom Holland's remarks continued to spread, the conversation in Hollywood circles only intensified. Many industry insiders described it as one of those rare turning points where a seemingly small moment becomes a defining cultural flashpoint. The SNL 50th anniversary event had already been under a microscope because it was such a massive milestone in television history. The entire industry was watching every joke, every sketch, every cameo, and every surprise appearance, hoping to see comedy magic and nostalgia collide in a way that would make history. Yet instead of walking away, talking about the brilliance of the night, audiences walked away debating whether SNL had crossed a line and whether Tom Holland had gone too far or not far enough in his reaction. The fascinating aspect of this saga is how quickly the roles seem to reverse. Usually, Ryan Reynolds is the one known for sharp comments, witty comebacks, and being the center of media attention. Yet, in this moment, it was Holland who carried the sharp edge of truth, while Reynolds and Lively were cast in the role of those being scrutinized observers. Noted the irony of Reynolds himself being a master of parody and roast comedy, now finding his own situation parodied in a way that he did not appear to appreciate. The lawsuit gag referenced by SNL was not just a random joke. It tapped into sensitive territory involving legal disputes, speculation about celebrity relationships, and the way Hollywood handles private conflicts in public. When Tom Holland addressed it, he inadvertently highlighted how comedy can sometimes feel more like cruelty when it is aimed at the wrong target at the wrong time. This triggered wider debates, not just among fans, but also among comedians, journalists, and cultural critics who weighed in with their perspectives. Some comedians defended SNL, arguing that satire has always been about pushing boundaries and that no celebrity should be immune from being poked fun at. However, others countered that comedy has to evolve with the times and that making light of personal struggles and legal issues no longer resonates with audiences the way it might have decades ago. Holland, by voicing discomfort, brought legitimacy to that evolving standard, making his stance a marker of generational change. Social media became a battleground for these ideas, with countless threads and viral posts dissecting whether Holland was brave or reckless, whether Reynolds and Lively were being unfairly mocked, or whether they should have taken the joke in stride. Memes flooded timelines, gifs of Holland's reaction circulated endlessly, and every entertainment outlet sought out quotes from insiders close to all three stars. The narrative grew legs and refused to die down. Entertainment analysts explained that part of the reason this story exploded was because it involved three different archetypes. Holland as the youthful star seen as earnest and principled, Reynolds as the witty veteran with a reputation for being untouchable, and Lively as the glamorous Hollywood icon often seen as embodying elegance and strength. When these archetypes collided in one controversial gag and one pointed response, it created irresistible drama that resonated with fans who project their own values onto their favorite stars. One major thread of commentary focused on power dynamics in Hollywood, because Reynolds and Lively as a couple wield enormous influence. Through their projects, production companies, brand endorsements, and connections, their status makes them larger than life. Yet Holland, who represents a newer generation of Hollywood, carries a different kind of power. The power of relatability, authenticity, and mass fan engagement. His fan base is younger, more online, more vocal, and more attuned to issues of sensitivity and fairness in media. The clash of these powers was on full display here, with Holland winning admiration for standing up, even indirectly, to a system that many fans feel is often cold and dismissive of real struggles. The entertainment press also seized on the narrative of Holland as a reluctant hero. His comments were not delivered with malice or aggression. They were thoughtful, subtle, and sincere. Yet because of his global reach, they carried enormous weight. Headlines described him as roasting Reynolds and Lively, though in truth what he did was closer to holding up a mirror and asking if this was really the kind of comedy people wanted to celebrate. His restraint only amplified the impact of his message, and in a media environment hungry for authenticity, it was like striking gold. Yet the storm did not come without risk, because Reynolds and Lively are not only powerful, but also beloved by millions of fans who are quick to defend them. Some accused Holland of seeking attention, of trying to capitalize on their struggles to elevate his own image. Others argued that he had no right to comment on matters that did not involve him directly. These voices added fuel to the fire, creating a polarized debate that mirrored broader cultural divisions about comedy sensitivity and public accountability. Entertainment law experts began weighing in, suggesting that SNL's decision to joke about lawsuits could theoretically open the door to legal action if individuals felt misrepresented or defamed. Though such cases are rare, the fact that the 50th anniversary special became tied up in such speculation only underscored how delicate the balance between humor and harm can be. Holland, by pointing it out, whether intentionally or not, brought even more attention to those risks. Insiders close to SNL reportedly admitted that producers had anticipated some backlash to the sketch, but they were not prepared for Holland's comments to blow it up into a full-scale media storm. Some even questioned whether including the gag had been worth the fallout, especially as the celebratory tone of the event was overshadowed by controversy. As the days passed, fans began revisiting other moments in SNL history, comparing this sketch to past instances where the show pushed too far. Some argued that this was just the latest in a long line of edgy jokes, while others claimed it was uniquely cruel because of the real-world context surrounding Reynolds and Lively. Tom Holland's reputation for being genuine and good-natured became a shield for him in this debate, because even critics who disagreed with his stance acknowledged that he did not appear motivated by malice. Rather, he seemed concerned about fairness, about the line between comedy and cruelty, and about the respect celebrities owe one another in a shared industry that perceptions strengthened. His standing as a role model, particularly among younger fans who see him as proof that integrity can coexist with superstardom. Meanwhile, Reynolds and Lively faced a difficult decision about how to respond. Should they address Holland directly? Should they ignore the comments? Should they take aim at SNL for the gag? Or should they simply move on? Each choice carried risks. If they attacked Holland, They risked looking petty and alienating his massive fan base. If they ignored it, they risked letting his words define the narrative. If they blamed SNL, they risked being seen as unable to take a joke. Media strategists speculated endlessly about what their next move would be, while fans scoured social media for any sign of subtle shade or hidden messages from the couple. The tension highlighted the fragile nature of celebrity image management in the digital age, where even silence can be interpreted as a statement, and every reaction or lack thereof is scrutinized. Tom Holland's role in this saga also raised questions about the future of celebrity culture. Some commentators suggested that this could mark a turning point where younger stars feel more empowered to challenge the old guard of Hollywood, whether through humor, commentary, or activism. Holland may not have set out to lead such a shift, but his influence in this moment showed how power is increasingly distributed, not just to those with the longest careers or the biggest contracts, but to those who connect most authentically with audiences in the midst of all this public speculation. One theme kept resurfacing: the idea of cruelty versus comedy. Many fans echoed Holland's unspoken point that the line between the two is not only thin, but constantly shifting. What might have been funny 20 years ago can feel cruel today, because audiences are more aware of the impact words have on mental health, relationships, and reputations. That awareness is what fueled the uproar around the SNL gag and made Holland's reaction resonate so deeply across cultural divides. The third wave of this drama unfolded not on the SNL stage and not in a press release, but on the battleground of social media, where every gesture, every phrase, and every silence became amplified. Tom Holland's words had already triggered an avalanche of discussion. Yet the momentum only grew as fans, celebrities, and even comedians began to add their voices to the conversation. What became clear quickly was that this was not simply about one gag or one roast, but about something larger: the way Hollywood comedy deals with pain, and how stars handle public image under pressure for decades. Saturday Night Live has walked a fine line between edgy satire and outright controversy, and many of its most iconic moments were also its most divisive. Yet the 50th anniversary was supposed to be different. It was marketed as a celebration, a moment of unity, nostalgia, and shared laughter. And that is why the lawsuit gag felt so jarring to so many. It was not just another edgy sketch on a random episode. It was a global event, with every corner of Hollywood watching when the gag brought up Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively in a way that many deemed cruel. It changed the tone of the night, and Holland's later comments crystallized that discomfort into something tangible and undeniable. Fans who felt uneasy suddenly felt validated because someone of Holland's stature had voiced what they were thinking. The support for Holland was overwhelming among younger audiences who see him as one of their own, someone who grew up in the same digital world they inhabit, where kindness, authenticity, and awareness of mental health carry more weight than clever sarcasm. These fans flooded platforms with praise, calling Holland brave, genuine, and refreshing. For refusing to go along with the old Hollywood way of laughing at pain, they contrasted his stance with Reynolds, who has built a career on sarcasm, roasts, and edgy humor, and they questioned whether that style still works in a cultural climate that demands more care. Other celebrities began to weigh in as well. Though often indirectly, some praised Holland for his sincerity without mentioning names. Others defended SNL as a comedy institution that must remain free to push boundaries. Each of these statements was dissected for hidden meanings and connections to the main players. The press, meanwhile, turned the story into a series of headlines that framed Holland as a challenger to Reynolds, positioning the younger star as a voice for a new era. The headlines wrote themselves: Spider-Man versus Deadpool, a clash of generations, sincerity versus sarcasm. And the media had no shortage of material to work with. Reynolds himself remained conspicuously quiet at first, which only added to the intrigue. Every time he posted something unrelated, fans flooded his comments with questions about Holland and the gag, creating an echo chamber that made silence feel louder than words. Blake Lively was also silent in the immediate aftermath, though her history of being highly protective of her family and her image made fans wonder how she was processing the public roast. Insiders whispered about tension behind the scenes, and speculation grew that the couple was not pleased with being used as a punchline at an event meant to honor comedy history. At the same time, Holland's team faced their own strategic dilemma, because while the actor was receiving praise, he was also drawing criticism from some corners and risked being portrayed as judgmental or humorless. Yet Holland himself appeared calm, unbothered, and focused on his work. He did not escalate the situation with further commentary. and this restraint only added to his credibility, because it signaled that his original words had not been about seeking attention, but about expressing genuine discomfort. The debate around cruelty in comedy also expanded into mainstream media, with talk shows, podcasts, and columnists dedicating segments to the controversy. Some argued that comedy without cruelty is not comedy at all, while others insisted that the future of entertainment lies in finding humor, without targeting individuals in ways that exploit their struggles. Holland became the poster child for this latter perspective, his face appearing in editorials about sensitivity in comedy and the evolving role of celebrities in shaping cultural norms. Fans connected his stance to broader conversations happening in society about bullying, mental health, and accountability, noting that celebrities have the same responsibility as anyone else to set positive examples. The incident also highlighted how rapidly public perception can shift in the age of social media, because Reynolds and Lively, who were long seen as untouchable, suddenly found themselves portrayed as vulnerable and even unfairly targeted. Their silence, which might once have been a safe strategy, began to be interpreted as evidence of hurt and discomfort. Holland, on the other hand, gained moral authority, not because he attacked anyone, but because he articulated the discomfort that audiences were already feeling. The symbolic clash between Holland and Reynolds sparked endless comparisons of their careers, their styles, and their images. Reynolds, known for his quick wit and sarcastic humor, versus Holland, known for his authenticity, earnestness, and openness. The contrast could not have been sharper, and fans debated which approach resonated more in today's world. Younger audiences leaned heavily toward Holland, while older fans defended Reynolds, suggesting that comedy must remain bold and fearless. The generational divide was clear, and it fueled even more discussion about where Hollywood is headed. As the drama dragged on, speculation began to swirl about whether SNL itself would address the controversy. Some suggested that producers might invite Holland to appear in a future episode as a way of bridging the divide. Others believed Reynolds and Lively might use their own platforms to subtly clap back, though nothing official materialized. The possibilities kept fans glued to the story because Hollywood thrives on what might happen as much as on what actually does happen. Entertainment critics explained that what made this particular controversy so sticky was its blend of comedy, legal undertones, celebrity image, and generational tension. Any one of these factors could generate headlines on its own, but together they created a perfect storm that refused to fade in. In the meantime, Holland continued to build his reputation as someone unafraid to speak from the heart, and his fans continued to reward him for it. This was not the first time he had been praised for his honesty in interviews, and it would not be the last, but this moment elevated him to a new level of cultural relevance because it positioned him not just as a movie star, but as a voice for the values of an entire generation. Reynolds and Lively eventually faced the reality that they would have to decide how to move forward, whether by directly addressing the gag, embracing it with humor, or simply continuing to focus on their projects and letting the controversy fade. Time would tell whether their silence was strategic brilliance or a miscalculation, but for the moment the spotlight belonged to Holland, and the cultural shift he represented. Fans knew that this story was far from over, because every major Hollywood controversy tends to evolve in stages, and with three of the most influential stars in the mix, the next chapter was guaranteed to be just as dramatic as the first, as the dust begins to settle from the storm sparked by Tom Holland's comments on the SNL 50th anniversary lawsuit gag. One thing is clear: this moment will be remembered not just as another celebrity controversy, but as a turning point in the ongoing conversation about comedy culture and sensitivity in Hollywood. Tom Holland did not need to deliver a scathing attack to make an impact. His quiet honesty and refusal to ignore what felt wrong resonated more deeply than any carefully rehearsed response ever could. Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively now face the reality that their public image has been tested in ways they could not control, and their silence has spoken volumes, leaving fans to wonder what their next move will be for SNL. The incident serves as a reminder that comedy is always walking a razor-thin line between sharp satire and misplaced cruelty, and the reactions from stars like Holland prove that younger generations are demanding something different. This saga shows how one comment from one actor can shift the narrative of an entire industry, reminding everyone that in Hollywood, reputation is fragile, power is shifting, and authenticity can change everything.